My name is Daniel Moore. I'm 74 years old. And even now, after all this time, I still find myself waiting for someone who isn't coming. It's not dramatic. It's not constant. It's just there, in the pause after a sound, in the way my body reacts before my mind catches up. I thought waiting would end at some point, that I'd grow out of it. That age would replace it with acceptance. But it didn't. So I'm saying this now, while I still can, not because I have answers, but because this has followed me longer than I ever expected. It started with the doorbell. Not the sound itself, but what happened inside me when I heard it. A quick lift in my chest. A readiness I didn't choose. I was already standing by the time I realized I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there was no one there. Just the hallway, quiet and indifferent. A flyer taped crookedly to the wall. I stood there longer than I needed to, hand still on the knob, like the moment might correct itself if I waited. Waiting has always felt like that. A pause that overstays its welcome. I live alone now, in a small apartment that doesn't change much. The furniture has been in the same places for years. The walls are bare except for a few photographs I don't look at often. Not because they hurt exactly, more because they remind me how much time has passed without asking my permission. Most mornings I wake up early, before the world feels ready. I make coffee for one. Sometimes my hand reaches for a second mug before I stop myself. I rinse it and put it back, clean, unused. That small moment happens more often than I'd like to admit. I wasn't always alone. I was married once. Her name was Claire. We met when life felt unfinished and forgiving. She had a way of listening that made you feel exposed, even when she said nothing. I didn't understand how rare that was. We built a life that looked solid. Jobs, routines, holidays repeated, until they felt permanent. I believed that consistency was proof, that staying meant enough. When Claire talked about feeling distant, I treated it like background noise, something that would settle on its own. I didn't think silence could do damage. I thought conflict was the only real danger. There's a night I remember clearly. We were sitting on opposite ends of the couch. The television was on, but neither of us was watching. She asked me if I still noticed her. I answered too quickly. I didn't look up. She nodded once, the way people do when they're done asking. When she left, it was quiet. Boxes, labels, careful movements. No anger. That hurt more than anger would have. I told myself she needed space. I told myself she'd come back once things cooled down. Waiting felt reasonable then, even noble. I kept her coat on the hook by the door. I didn't move her things for months. The apartment felt suspended, like it was holding its breath with me. Years passed that way. Friends asked if I was seeing anyone. I said not really. Dates happened, but I never fully arrived. I was polite, kind, distant. Part of me stayed turned toward a door that wasn't opening. Eventually, the waiting stopped, being about Claire. Her face softened into memory. Her voice faded. But the habit stayed, the posture, the quiet expectation that something was about to begin. I waited for phone calls, for birthdays to feel different, for the quiet to turn into something else. My parents died a few years apart. Their house emptied quickly. Decades of living reduced to boxes and decisions. I went home afterward and looked around my apartment, realizing how little evidence I'd leave behind. That thought didn't frighten me. What frightened me was how ordinary it felt. As I aged, the waiting became smaller, less hopeful, but more constant. I stopped listening for footsteps, and started noticing empty chairs. I caught myself finishing conversations in my head and waiting for a response that never came. Last winter, I got sick. Nothing serious, just enough to keep me in bed for days. No one checked in, not because people didn't care, but because I hadn't built a life that required checking on. When I recovered, I felt something unexpected. Disappointment. Not at anyone else. At myself. On my 73rd birthday, I baked a small cake from a box. Chocolate. Simple. I lit one candle and sat at the table, watching the flame bend when the heater kicked on. I didn't make a wish. I just waited for the moment to end so I could clean up. That's when I understood something I'd been avoiding. I wasn't waiting for a person. I was waiting for permission. Permission to feel finished. Permission to feel whole. Permission to believe that this life, as it was, counted. The cost of waiting didn't arrive all at once. It leaked out through half-lived days, through conversations I didn't fully step into, through years I treated like preparation instead of life itself. No one took that time from me. I gave it away quietly. Now, at 74, the waiting still shows up. When the phone rings, when the doorbell sounds, when my heart reacts before my mind can remind it, there's no one on the way. The truth is simple, and it isn't comforting. Some people don't return. Some moments don't circle back. And some waiting doesn't end with an arrival. It just becomes the shape of a life. Tonight I'll eat dinner at the small table by the window. I'll set one plate without hesitation. I'll wash it carefully afterward, like it matters. I'll sit in the quiet without pretending it's temporary. I don't know if I'm done waiting. Habits like this don't disappear just because you notice them. But I see it now. Clearly enough to name it. Clearly enough to stop calling it hope. If you're listening and something in this feels familiar, you don't have to respond. You don't have to explain it. You can just sit with it. And if you want to leave a thought, or stay a little longer, that's okay too.